That's exactly one of the questions that I asked.
So,
No, that's not one bit.
Okay, for those who probably kind of listening now, we are talking to Jerome Slew.
We're live. I didn't even know we started.
I mean, like everybody else we have had on the podcast, it's people we have known over time, and in this case, we met in the gym at Virgin Gym here in Sheffield, where me and Donald are frequent.
You may be frequent.
We frequent that establishment.
And you have the body to testify for it.
Hey, there's no way. Let me tell you, when you're 55, your body will tell you one thing, and sometimes it lies to me first thing in the morning. It tells me I'm not capable of doing this thing. So, but we carry on. But then we meet. I think it's during that. Sometimes it becomes more than just us going to the gym and exercising. It becomes more of a place where you meet interesting people.
Absolutely.
And amazing people who have done great stuff. And we are in the presence of such a young person, and we are learning. As we are in our third set.
Well, yeah, I'm the oldest here again. At 64, and I was, sitting here with Jerome, who's 26.
He's 26.
And, like, even at 64, and I've spoken to lots, I've spoken to a number of ex-professional footballers in that time. I still get quite excited about talking to someone who's played professional football, and maybe that's the child in me, which is when you're kicking the ball around on the park, and when you're about 9-10, for my case 9-10, who's Georgie Best, who's Eusebio, who's Pele, it's the same thing, and that stays with you.
Absolutely.
And so many people, when I was growing up 9-10, I've said Eusebio and Pele because there were no black British footballers at that time, bar one or two. There was Clyde Bess, he played for West Ham United there, and then it's in the mid-70s when you start to see guys who are a bit older than myself, like Cyril Regis, Laurie Conyngham, Viv Anderson for Forest.
Oh yes,
these guys started to play in the late 70s, and now, watched Chelsea play Forest the other day. I think Chelsea must have had about 8 black players on that park.
Yeah, definitely.
It's changed.
It is changed, and it's constantly changing. Whatever the next wave is, there's going to be another change again.
So one of the things, you said was you don't miss it.
No. No, not at all.
And this is the thing, because I'm sure every young person out there, like Donald, you just say that many young men or children actually look up and say, one day I want to play for my favorite team. What was the journey for you? Because you said you started football at an early age. What was the thing that?
So it started just like every other kid, playing on the front garden, playing on the streets, like everyone else. I had an older brother. He was playing football. So I was at Junior Blades, started there for about 2-3 years. Went to the Sheffield United development, got through, signed when I was 9. And it was just academy football all the way up from 9 till 18. And then you go into the youth team. Didn't work out as, I'd probably expected from myself and probably the club. I think we had higher intentions of where I was going to go. But that's the reality of football. It changes very quick. And then, when I was out for a little bit, we were due to injury. Got back into it, was playing a bit non-league. And then it was probably just sheer determination. I just kept going. And this is where it probably got a lot harder. Because I didn't have anything. I had nothing. It was literally just hope.
Yeah.
And aspiration of, right, I need to be a footballer. This is my plan. And then things picked up a bit. I started playing a bit of non-league. I was linked with a couple of league clubs, played here, there. That was it. The journey was fun and it was hard, but it was my journey.
Yeah.
It was my journey.
So did you get back to Sheffield United?
No, I never went back.
You never went back?
So from the signed at 8, left it around 18, 19, so it was 10, 11 years. That was it. Once I'd left and walked out the door, I never went back. There was no talks of going back. It was just, that was it, done.
So how did you feel then? Because I mean that happens to quite a lot of guys, doesn't it? Really, they've
Yeah.
gone all the way up to about 18. Clearly, these are good footballers there. There's a lot of good footballers at that point there, and some get signed, or a couple get signed, but a lot don't get signed. I mean, how did it feel not to get signed?
It's a tough one because, like I said, I started from. There was only me and one other person that went from the age of 8, which is the start, all the way through the academy system. Now, every club in the country, not many players go from the start to finish all the way through. But because my older brother, he had made it through to the first team, and then my older cousin, he was starting to develop into the first team. I think at a young age, everyone was looking at me thinking, I'm going to have to do it next. And I think I held that pressure on myself as well.
Yeah.
I think as a young kid, I didn't know any better. So in my head, it was, well, I'm going to be a footballer now as well. I'm going to be a professional. My brother's doing it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because I know people actually, before, sorry for cutting you, but you know, I know some people will be wondering, so who is the brother and who is the cousin?
Oh, so my brother's Jordan, 5 years older. He's at Morecambe now.
Yeah.
And then my cousin, only a couple of months older actually, but in the age group above is Dom Lewin, who's at Everton now. So we was all sort of at the academy at the same time, obviously different age groups. But I think I got to probably 18, and I was in my second year of my scholarship, and I started to realise it's not going to work out for me here. I knew. And you know what? I looked at it and I think I can understand why.
Yeah.
You know, mentally I wasn't the same player I was now. If I knew what I knew then,
Yeah.
well, if I knew what I knew now then, it would be different.
Yeah.
My, you know, mentality in terms of my game knowledge, it wasn't the same.
Wasn't it?
And I
So you
probably
come
wasn't
from a
good
footballing
enough.
family. So is it Calvin Lewin?
Yeah,
Who's the centre forward for Everton?
yeah.
Right, who played for England, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that's quite a lot of pressure, isn't it? When you've got that
Yeah,
all
yeah.
around you there, you've got, you know, an older brother, a cousin as well, who are all good footballers. You show promise, and as you said, you can put pressure on yourself.
Yeah, you put a lot of pressure on. And I think...
And also, I mean, it's not only that, because when you look at Jerome, his physicality is like some next level, bro. I was like, what the heck, man? This boy is big. You know what I mean?
Hey,
So
the
it's like,
footballers are strong as anything.
This is the thing, though. You can work super hard, but there's still every other aspect that you need to make sure you get right.
Yeah.
And like you said, I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes maybe family did too,
Yeah.
which is normal, fine,
Yeah.
expected. But I think once I knew I wasn't going to make it at that club, sometimes it did feel a certain way. I was like, I let myself down a bit. But there's other ventures anyway, which was...
Can you see it, you know, because they often talk about a lot of footballers there, and it's difficult for fans often when footballers start talking about, the pressure, that. We say, hold on now, they're getting paid X amount of thousands a week. I mean, I'd take that pressure. It's not what
I'll
fans
take a
say.
little abuse. Yeah, I'll take a little abuse
The
enough for
problem
that.
you get is, just like yourself, I'll take that pressure. Well, can you handle it when you get it though?
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. You know, people look at footballers like they're not human.
Yeah.
They forget that they are just people. So simple things like walking through the street. Yeah, if you're a big time footballer, you don't really get that peace of mind to just be able to walk to the shop because you're constantly getting bothered. You've got the pressure of fans.
Yeah.
You know, it's people forget about tax, by the way. It's like 45% tax. I mean, I never got to that tax bracket. People just forget. They think it's just play football and get paid loads. But you know, there's responsibilities that you know. Sometimes I look at it and think I'm actually fortunate that I didn't have that responsibility.
Yeah.
Because it is hard.
Yeah.
And people think, you just go on holiday when you want. No, you don't. You know, these Premier League footballers.
Yeah.
You've got the Premier League. They'll have maybe Champions League, Europa League. They've got international breaks. Some of them get 2-3 weeks off for the year, and then they're straight back to it.
Straight back to it.
Yeah.
Because the weird thing is, like, I had a conversation, I mean, like, on another different interview with Carlton Palmer.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was talking about his journey into football and the fact that for him, he says, I knew I wasn't probably like the best footballer out there, but my work ethic, again, was next to none, so I had to push myself a little bit. You see what I'm saying? And back in and also being a footballer without a management structure that no sort of like agents and all that kind of stuff. That's another added pressure. So when you go into those rooms, you are the only person that you have to represent yourself.
Yeah.
So me, I'm sort of thinking like from a wellness point of view, how do you navigate that space? Like especially at a young age like yourself, because it's like of all the young people that I hang around with or I get to sit around with, your positivity is infectious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get people who like saying, this is what I'm doing and I'm gonna do that. And do you ever get those moments where you're like, this is too hard?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Because I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
When I was playing football, 100%. And I feel like I didn't realise it early enough.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I'd travel to London, and my family was here, I had my child here. I'd go to London, and sometimes it's like missing out on my child.
Yeah.
But I've got football to play.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets hard, because a lot of the time, you might be on your own, you might not actually want to go, but you have to go. And I feel like that's where it becomes a bit of a problem, because once you stop enjoying it, it stops being like it was when you was a kid, where it was just fun. And no kid at 5 years old thinks, I can't wait to get an agent and sign this big contract. They just want to play football. But then once you stop thinking about that stuff and you start thinking, well, I have to be here and I'm getting paid, sometimes it can just stop being enjoyable, and you start looking at thinking, right, this is a chore. And it can zap your energy a bit. It can take it out of you.
So how often do you and your cousin or your brother ever talk about the business of football? Outside the joy of football.
I'm not massively close with Dom. We'll interact every now and again. My brother, we speak a lot. My brother is like best friend. Growing up, he was kind of like father figure.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, we got to a point where we just stopped talking about football.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things of when you get a little bit fed up with it, or you're there every day, I don't want to go home and talk about it as well.
That's it.
Sometimes I want to just clear my mind from it.
So it becomes work.
It becomes work.
Yeah.
It becomes work. I get home and I'm just like, don't speak to me about football.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I don't really watch a lot of football.
Yeah.
I watch the big games and the really good ones, Man City, Man United, those top clubs, but
Yeah, Nottingham Forest.
But honestly,
I never tell you, I've been wondering. I'm like thinking, does Nottingham Forest still exist? Let me tell you, no, hold on, no.
Them jokes.
In the 70s.
No, honestly, I got to a point, 'cause I remember I watched my brother go through it where he got a bit fed up with football. And I understood when I started going through it. And I was like, right, I get it now.
Yeah.
And we just don't speak about it. I mean, now we speak about just life in general, business. And
So what do you say then? I mean, I'm going back to an earlier point I made there, which is, I mean, it's for all, for so many people, be both male and female, but particularly for young black lads, who they can, every weekend, they can see on the TV lots of people who look like themselves.
Yeah.
Would it still be something you'd be saying to those people? Keep that dream going. If this is what you want to do.
absolutely, yeah, you have to. I don't think it's ever anyone's place to say to someone, no, don't do that. Like, if you've got a dream and you've got aspirations, 100% go and follow them.
Yeah.
But I think, me personally, I'd also make you aware of, it doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a big believer in, if anything you want to do, you can go and do it. I mean, I speak to my kids all the time. If you want to do something, go do it. But I feel like there has to be that reality of, there's going to be, there's going to be hardships, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be failure. And I think, like myself, it was, I'm going to be a professional footballer.
Yeah.
Not because I said it. In my head, I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And I believed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the realisation of, well, what if it doesn't work?
Yeah. And because one of the things which, I mean, my favourite footballer at the moment is Saka.
Okay.
I absolutely adore Saka. And Saka, because I used to be in teaching, so this is where the connection is as well. Saka does his A-levels and gets grade A in his A levels, or it might be his GCSEs, and. Is there a difficulty when people, you say you have to be quite single-minded to become a footballer, to become a professional sports person? Can you miss out on the education side of things as a result? Can you do both? I mean, some can.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no reason why you can't. There's no reason why you can't. It's just where you put your focus. And again, this is what a lot of footballers, in my opinion, are lacking. Well, not lacking. All the focus is on football. No, I don't think many of them are thinking, what am I doing next? Or what could I be doing in the meantime whilst I'm sat home from 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
That's all it is. You get home for 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, then what do you do?
And that's it.
Do something else.
Yeah. And what do they tend to do then?
In my opinion, in my experience,
without giving any secrets
all right,
away.
in fact, I'll tell you what, I won't speak on everyone else.
Yeah.
Bar a few, but what I used to do, I'd get home for 1, 2 o'clock. I'd sit and play PlayStation.
Yeah.
I'd sit and play PlayStation for hours. I'd scroll Instagram. Just the same old story of what people do. And it was obviously until I realised I'm wasting my time.
That's quite a big period of time, isn't it?
It's massive.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't go to sleep until, when I was playing, 11, 12 o'clock. And I'd honestly just sit there, play PlayStation. I wasn't really big into walking then. I wasn't big into reading books.
Yeah.
You can do a bit of gym, but you can't do too much because then you've got training the next day.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, that's what I mean, I was very closed-minded. I didn't look into, what else can I do? Can I look at growing a business online? Can I look at learning another language?
Yeah.
Those sort of things.
Yeah, because, one of the things which, talking about wellness and mental health, that, there is a lot of talk about if you can get that balance, in whatever you do in your life, whatever work you do, etc., that if you can get some balance to it, then that can helps people, doesn't it? But actually, clearly for footballers there, I want to be, and it's so competitive that actually you can see how people just sort of like, this is my focus, it's always been my focus, and there's not much space or room to actually develop other interests.
Yeah, it's difficult because in any sport, you have to give it 110%. So sometimes you might not have the energy to put that, that other effort.
Like mental energy, I'd imagine.
It is difficult. It is difficult because I understand, some footballers like, look, I'm look at Ronaldo, for example. Prime example of a player that will just put everything into something, but eventually he started doing other things as well, and that's that's great. But if you can't sort of divert your attention elsewhere, you can't sort of make that time. It is very difficult.
Yeah,
but it's. I think for me, it's like when I look at. For when I was studying on my journalism degree, we were talking about the likes of of course Ronaldo. There's a couple of other players, big players, who are now bigger than their club.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And people follow people. They don't necessarily follow the. I could be the greatest orator of all time, but people will follow me. They won't know anything I have said. You know what I'm saying? So I think. Maybe because football kind of gives that impression that people have got it all together. That's why people don't. That's why the average guy watching their TV screen and screaming at a player and cursing and doing all that kind of stuff, they don't realize. It's like we build people up to I don't know if rightly so, but I think sometimes I'll say genius, we are born with a certain level of genius, but people will elevate us by the things that they say or their accolades they give us.
For all of those very, 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 very successful footballers, and I would say anyone who's playing Premier League football is a success. They may not see it always as a success because they're competing to be in the first 11, etc. there. But as you say, there'll be lots and lots and lots of footballers who have the dream, and then they don't get there. In their eyes, the way they perceive it, and playing lower league football and playing non-league football there, it's that woulda, coulda, shoulda sort of stuff there.
Yeah.
And actually, if they then haven't been able to then develop other interesting skills, that eventually their time will come as well, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, be 35 going on. I mean, I've watched a bit of non-league football, and you see the guys there who've come all the way down, and they're still, by my standard, way above me, but they're getting on a bit now.
Yeah. This is the thing, like, to make it in the Premier League, or even to the Premier League, I'm not saying have 100 appearances, because that's a very small percentage of players. Just to get to the Premier League is hard enough. So like you said, you're going to have to start dropping down. And you're still a good player, but you drop down, then what?
Yeah.
But then who gauges how great you are?
Well, I'm not thinking about so great. I'm probably thinking more about those guys. How did they manage that journey? You know, where there is disappointment along the way, and there I am there playing good football, but it's, you know, it's League 7.
It's not where you want to be.
It's not where you want to be. And actually, I'm 35,
demoralising,
and I've not got anything else beyond this. At some point, even this is going to go.
Yeah.
How do I manage that? And that's something which, I mean, for sports people, you've got that, haven't you? I mean, I've listened to some of the boxers talk about it. How do they manage that post-boxing period? The athletes, how do they manage that period? How do you, you know, at some point, your sporting excellence, the thing which actually gave, you know, you were known from the age at school, you're the best footballer.
Yeah.
You're the best this, you're best that, you're best that. No, actually, at this point, at 35, 36, you're not the best.
Yeah.
In fact, you're not even going to be anywhere near it anymore.
But then let me ask you a question. I mean, okay, so if I retire and I have like a gazillion, let me tell you, I mean, hey, me, I ain't gonna get depressed, bro.
But
You say that.
Yeah.
And you've seen it happen, though.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. That's the reality of it, and that's how we look at those guys. That's why we can abuse them and think that they have to pull up their big boy pants and
Well, you see
get
a
on
number
with
of
it.
guys who go bankrupt, don't you?
Yeah.
Because, you know, you can imagine if you're playing at a very good level there and you're earning, I don't know what it is now, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 pound a week, you live a life like that as well.
Yeah.
And then actually, when that money's no longer coming in like that, and you're still living like that, at some point it's going
you've
to
got
go.
a problem.
And also you've got friends or people you think are friends. They're still around that, aren't they?
You don't have direct guidance, and I've experienced this. I watched, you know, my brother made a very good move to Blackburn. You know, was getting good money. Didn't necessarily have the right guidance though. Now, you know, he's older and he's doing smart investments. But who's really speaking to a young 20-year-old that's getting 20 grand a week?
Yeah.
Who's speaking to him? Who's guiding him?
That's the thing. I remember a conversation between me and you, and we're talking about that very thing. That how, especially as a people, I mean, Don, you probably attest to this. There has never really been an education around money in our community, unless you are in the know.
No, I don't think there's an education, nor is there in school really. So really, it's probably, well, I'm sure it is. It's far easier to use money better, use money well when you've been used to money. And given that lots of us are not used to money, you know, we're used to going to work, getting a paycheck at the end of the week, end of the month. But when you talked about investments, you know, so let's say if I had my child was really good at football, and if I was a person who was supporting him in terms of investments, I don't know much about investments.
Right. Yeah, I get you. I've got you.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm there as his or hers sort of dad wanting the best, but I don't know about investments. And back to your point there, as a 20-year-old, how do you know somebody is going to be really behind you?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a very tough one. You don't. There's not many. There's not really many people out there that will say to a young footballer, like, put your money away, invest in a property. It just doesn't happen. Now, look, I'm not saying I was ever at the point of earning 20 grand a weekend at 20 years old. Cause I wasn't. 20 years old, I was rock bottom at 20 years old.
Yeah.
Just trying to build myself up again. But I feel like that's where, and like I said to you in the gym the other day, surround yourself with older people. That's something I've learned in the past couple of years. Surround yourself with older people. People are doing better than you.
Yeah.
That's where you will learn things. Have your friends, but who's really going to make you better?
Well, that's an interesting talk, isn't it? That intergenerational, because, one of the things I think you see more of is that actually the generations sit much more on their own now.
That's it.
Yeah. So therefore, that learning, which you can get from, being with people who are older and different to yourself, can be lost, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Because even those you look at and think, they failed. They have a cautionary tale, and I think sometimes because we don't have those generational conversations, and I'm aware that, especially, I just came from an event today around Black History Month with South Yorkshire Police, Ambulance Services, and Fire Service, and that whole thing of changing the narrative, and I think that's the theme of Black History Month this time, is about that whole thing of owning the narrative, so to speak.
Well, I think there's always that same saying, you are what you surround yourself with.
Yes.
If you just surround yourself with people your age and who think like you, that's all you're ever going to think. Now, it's not necessarily your fault, because that's what you're used to. Until you take yourself out of there, you go with older people, you go to different places, the conversation then becomes different. The conversation I'm having with you now.
Yeah, but it's for some people, you have to have some confidence, don't you? Because all of us, even as older people, we like to be with the same sort of people because, there's a comfort in it. So actually,
and there's
the problem, isn't it?
It is, yes. The comfort.
There's a comfort.
It's an absolute killer. It's a killer, and it's something that I am, maybe for the past year, I've really started to step out of. Putting myself around people who were doing things I never thought I would be doing now. I look at my life now compared to 6 months ago. It's ridiculously different.
Yeah.
I'm still learning things, but in terms of who I am now compared to what I was doing 6 months ago, it's bizarre. It's a world apart.
How important then, because we alluded to this when we were walking up about mentorship for you as a how important is it? Because you just drove an hour and a half to Manchester to go meet your mentor for a couple of hours to come back.
It's one of the best things I think anyone can do. Now, whether you've got someone that you can just look up to online, I mean, I've got those people. There's people that I look up to. But if you can get someone that's close to you that you can speak to on a regular basis, who can teach you things that maybe your friends can't, it's massive. For me, like I said, my older brother Jordan was, growing up as kids, we were just friends. He was my brother. But I got to probably late teens, and I thought, you was more like a father figure to me. And I just watched him for years.
Yeah.
How he trained. Me and him would run together. I had to run harder. I watched him, do very well in football. That had to push me harder. Then I started watching him talk about investing in properties. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And like I said, you are what you surround yourself with. I've always been surrounded by older siblings. I know people usually say, I've got a little bit of an older head on me. I'm only 26, but I'm trying to do things that maybe other people wouldn't do in the 30s. And like you said, I drove an hour and a half to Manchester to sit with my mentor Aaron Burns, who I've known for a couple of years now. Got me into what I do now, insurance advising. And that hour, actually we spoke for 30 minutes. I sat with him for about an hour and a half, but we spoke for 30 minutes just in terms of goal settings. That 30 minutes is worth that 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
It's worth it, because what it does, it lights that fire in you, because you've learned something, you've got a different perspective, you feel driven. And if you can have someone that can do that for you, then you're going to achieve a lot sooner than you expect to.
So what's your support system like? Let's say, like you, of course you are lightly melanated, well melanated young man. Because let me tell you, in the black community, I did mention that it's Black History Month, and usually it's at this time of the year that when we start thinking about the things we do as a community. How has community been for you? Or is it one of those things you build yourself?
You'll be the same with you. This is the funny one. Community for me didn't play a massive role in my life. So, I mean, the family I came from, I knew all my family, but I just never felt super close. It wasn't a very close knit. It wasn't, you know, I had my sister, my brothers, my mum. That was it. You know, I knew my aunties and my uncles, and in fact, one of my uncles was really supportive. That was it for me. So my support system was, like I said, my brother. He was my support. And I feel like if you're in that environment and you sort of do things on your own, you build a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not even hardship. It's more of that ability to do things on your own, think on your own, deal with things on your own.
So that's sort of resilience.
Yeah, that's the word.
Resilience.
I couldn't figure it out.
Do you think, therefore, you talked about maybe, you know, not the community is not necessarily featuring that large in your life as such there. It's always a hard one to work out what community is, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's always a difficult one.
Do you think that even going for a mentor is an aspect of looking for something? Because, you know, sometimes with a community, or that notion of community, and they talk about it takes a village to raise a child. But actually, when you have that as such, then it's quite a natural, you could say, it's quite a natural thing to actually have a mentor. But actually, the need to have a mentor, regardless of how you've been brought up, is still an important thing to have.
It is important.
I think there's only so far you can get on your own. There's only so far you can get on your own. And I feel like I did a lot of things on my own. And I had to support myself and probably be like an emotional comfort for myself, deal with hardships by myself. But eventually you have to look at, right, how do I get to the next level?
Yeah.
And it is with mentorship. It is with support from other people, having those conversations that might be a little bit difficult, but you get more from them.
Do you think as well with that more difficult, because one of the things which we've explored a lot in our talks on this podcast is a notion of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because again, going back to the football analogy as such there, my memories of playing football as a young man at very, very, very low level was that actually you did not show vulnerability. All you did was to say you were the best.
You were the best, man. You were.
Absolutely.
No, you were the best. Then.
You were the best. You're
It's one of those sports. I mean, it's a shame because everyone's got vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that environment, you need to be a bit hard-headed.
Yeah.
There's not really a space to be vulnerable. Oh, I can't play today. You know, I don't feel good. You know, I'm struggling. No, because you don't play that day, you might not get your spot back.
Yeah.
So you have to be that way.
But it can build a way of being then, can't it? They're actually outside of that.
So, you know, if my partner was here now, she'd tell you I'm very much like that now. And, you know, we're still understanding each other, but you know, we grew up very different. And I had to explain, like, my upbringing it wasn't super supportive. Like I said to you in the gym the other day, it wasn't loads of love and affection and let's talk about feelings. So when you
we're smiling because that's again
so then, you know, when you try and go through football, and I was a very disciplined footballer. I never slacked. I always did the extra work, and that builds up a bit of resilience because you know, right, I've got to get done, discipline. And then you kind of come out of it, but you still have it attached to you. It's like who you are.
Yeah.
So like now, I don't really talk about feelings. I don't talk about how, you know, if I need to feel some way, all right, I might feel some way, but I'm going to get something done regardless.
Yeah. It's a doing, isn't it?
And then as good as that is, because you will always get the things done, it has an aspect of, let's say, a relationship where it doesn't always work. It doesn't, you know, they don't gel well. As you all know, as older men, you know, when you've got a partner, you need to be a bit vulnerable.
Of course, there's older men.
It's a theme which, I mean, I'm with two black men's groups, and I think that is a theme which we hear all the time. It's a thing we talk about a lot of the time, and clearly, you know, in a sense, you've had that, your work aspect, your career aspect of football, also mingling with the way in which you've been sort of brought up.
Yeah.
And that was, for myself and people of my generation there, you know, people were not touchy-feely. People didn't express their feelings, especially men.
Absolutely.
It just didn't do it at all there. So you learn how to be, you learn how to do. And one of the things we talked about in our group over the years has been, do you say I love you to your children?
Yes.
And we had some interesting conversations because most of the guys there were saying, yeah, say I love you to my daughter, but not to my son.
To my son.
And I've started to say it to my son, and I think the first time he heard me say it, he must have thought, "What's the matter with him?"
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
We had the same conversation.
We had the same.
So I've got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my child. My partner's got 2.
Yeah.
I tell them I love them all the time.
Yeah,
But my brother, he tells his son he loves him all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
But it's funny because my dad, who would never speak about his feelings, ever. You know, I don't even really understand his upbringing because I know it was difficult. But he would always say, "I love you."
Yes.
However, my mom, no. So sometimes, even now at 26, I could hug my mom by. We just don't say "I love you,"
yeah.
Yeah.
and that's normal for me, and that's just how we've always been. But you know, my partner was saying, "Why don't you tell her you love her?"
Yeah.
I'd find it weird if I did. I'd find it very weird if I
Yeah,
did.
it is.
But I understand why my mom was the way she was when I was growing up. You know, she did a lot for 3 kids on her own.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And the way she was raised and brought, you know, from Jamaica to England, and I can get why she's the way she is.
Yeah.
She's reserved.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, you know, all my siblings are reserved.
Yeah, and we shouldn't criticise ourselves in our community for that. It's the way we've been brought up.
Yeah.
I
That's
think,
it,
I think
that's
there's changes which are afoot because maybe there's a bit more space
Yeah,
now
absolutely.
to be able to do that. Because I'm probably a bit older than your parents. That people came over in the 50s and 60s, and then they're raised there in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and they're difficult days.
yeah.
And you
They
have,
are
and it's
difficult
hard.
days.
And it was hard.
Yeah.
So that space to actually express those types of emotions was not always there. I expressed my love by my doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah,
by
yeah.
my doing, by my going to work. I went to get my dad's paycheck when I was about 17, and he worked in a steel foundry. And I remember going in there thinking, "Boy, you're good," because it was like hell. And I thought, you do that every week for the past 30 odd years, and you do that for a reason, which is you've got a family to have put a roof over their head,
I think it's
clothes on the back.
It's that sort of dad provide, you know,
Yeah.
has to provide.
Yeah.
And it is sort of locked in of I need to provide, and I'm going to go to work, I'm going to struggle, I'm going to suffer, but it's for the family.
It is for the family.
And I think that's why I get why my mum was the way she was, because she was sort of probably doing what some may say was the man's role. She was providing and supporting. She might not have had that in her to be really soft and loving. Now, not to say I didn't get love, because I had a great childhood.
Yeah.
But you know, when I look back at it now, my mum was a very reserved person as it is.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes even when I hug her, she's a little bit. But I get why the way she is because of how she was raised, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, I think if you're a bit more open-minded, which I'm glad I have been.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still maybe times where I could be a bit softer, but I always tell I have to
what's
tell
it
the
like
kids I
then
love them.
with other guys then? I mean, I'd be talking about the black men's group there, but is that something you sense? Because I mean, we started this podcast there with David Bussu, who's the CEO of SACMA, and I asked him the question, why do we need SACMA, which is Sheffield African Caribbean Mental Health Association? And he replied by saying 40 years ago, black men were 6 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. Today it's 5 times.
Yeah. Which is only like a slight,
It's not massive improvement.
It's not a massive improvement, yeah.
So we still see lots and lots of young black guys and older black guys who they've got trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we all know them.
Yeah.
We've all got some people we know who are struggling.
Yeah.
It is a difficult one, 'cause I think there's a fine line. Now, I am a big believer in, look, I am quite traditional, so I see myself as quite a more masculine sort of approach to things. So if I am struggling, just get on with it. Just get on with it. Go, just keep going. But there is the aspect of you're gonna break. You are gonna break eventually. Now, you don't want to get to that point because you're not going to be productive. You're not going to be happy. You're not actually going to get things done that you need to get done.
Yeah.
So at what point do you then start to say, right, I need to speak to somebody, or I might need that extra bit of support?
No, that's true. That's true. I mean, I'm an advocate for, as an African. I mean, it's like one of the mostly unlikely people to even perpetuate this idea that you got to talk to somebody, let alone dig into your wallet and
but the
and go
talk,
pay.
but the talk might
You know
not
what I
be with the. I mean, I know last week we had Delroy here, who's a psychotherapist, but he's a big advocate for when you talk to your friends.
Yeah.
You know, with you, all of us have got 2 or 3 friends who, at some point in our life, we've had to sort of share with them. You know,
I wish I did, but yeah, except
but,
you, of course.
But we, you know, because life's going to have difficult bits along it.
Yeah.
And you need to have some people there at those points when actually, you know what, I need to tell you that the marriage is, you know, the relationship is finished. You know, me and so we're finished now, etc. There, that you can go away and sort of say things are all right, but most of us are not all right when that happens. None of it was worth anything.
Do you think it's because as men we like to fix things? You know, like a mental response is a solution.
Yeah.
So if you
I'm
find a solution to something, if you can't fix it, do you feel like you're a failure? Do you?
I am still of that mindset because I think, you know, like really everything that we are dealing with as people in general, if we sit down and actually found solutions to stuff, and it's not because I'm a man, I think the world needs more people who are into solutions. And
but the thing about some of these emotional, psychological things, they're not easy solutions, are they? No. You know, so for instance, let's just take an example. Say, for instance, you're in a long-term relationship, you've had children with them, and it finishes. Right? It finishes there, and you can have a situation where people are looking for the reason. There's no real reason. It's just sort of like it's finished. Things are just, you know, it's been drifting apart. You no longer love one another, all that sort of business, etc. There, and it's that bit when, as a man, and again thinking about the men's group there, you get a sense sometimes that actually what you might say to one another is, "It's done." That's it, how it is. And actually what you're not doing actually saying is actually I feel really bad. I'm really, really bad. In fact, I could project an anger to the other person. Well, actually I'm really bad about the relationship.
I think it's that thing. So personally speaking, I know what I'd be like. I'd be upset. But I'd still go about my day-to-day just as normal. Because
that's how I was. I'm talking about myself.
I'm a big believer in no matter what happens, get things done.
I will be moping about. I'll be writing songs and poems.
Well, you've got a creative side to you. I'm more like you. I've been more like you. And if somebody said to you, "How are you?" I'd just say, "Yeah, I'm all right."
You know what it is? I think now I've learned, if someone did say to me, "How are you?" I'd say, "Look, I'm struggling. It's hard." But I've got the other side of me that would be like, I'm not going to let this, affect my day. I'm not going to let this lower me down. Not necessarily lower me down, but I'm not going to mope around.
Yes.
Because then I'm going to feel worse.
But what did it take for you to actually get to a point where you are now able to say, you know something, I'm not okay. I am going through A, B, C, and D. And because I think many of us, we deny ourselves the permission to actually say, you know what, I'm going through stuff and I'm dealing with it. We don't even acknowledge it. Which I think for me, it's important to acknowledge where I am, because otherwise I have no reference to how it will always be. If I know I am not okay, either I can go look for help or I can talk to somebody or do stuff. But when I say, I'm okay.
Yes.
And tears are streaming down, I'm okay. And I have seen, because I have been in those positions where you are trying to convince yourself that you're okay. And you're not. And many of us, we do that.
I think if you speak to a man and you say, how are you? And he said, I'm okay. Instantly in my head, my radar's going off, no, you're not. Just because now I understand men, like, man says, if he uses the words, I'm okay. No, he's not.
He's not.
You don't reply to someone like that. Now, personally speaking, I know I'm good, this, that, and the other. I'm good, and then we can talk.
But that's the thing. It's like, it's a weird thing, which is sort of like one of the things somebody said to me recently. You are so self-aware. I didn't get it. You know what I mean? I didn't get it. Because for me, the natural thing is I think sometimes I'm open to a fault. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I I think transparency was made with me in mind, in the sense that I will ask those questions mainly because that's my nature to do so. But it's like the concept of being self-aware. I assume. I mean, what does that?
I'm much more towards the closed.
Yeah.
So I'm probably much more traditional male in that respect. There.
Yeah.
But actually, that question, it goes two ways. One is, someone says to you, "How are you?" You can reply back with a version of "I'm okay," or you can ask that person, "How are they?" and they give you a version back. And what you do is you let it by.
Yeah.
You let it go. So actually, there's a relationship dynamic then between you, two men there, where actually I'm not saying no depth there, but you're not really exploring anything with one another there. It's just we just talk about things.
Yeah,
we're not talking about ourselves. So you can know a man for 30, 40 years and not know them.
Yeah.
No. But that's the thing I'm finding out.
And you think you're close.
Yeah.
But you don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
I think that can relate to you as a person. I think I always saw myself as very self-aware. So if someone peed me off, I'd know exactly why.
Yeah.
I'd understand why I was annoyed.
Yeah.
But I'd deal with it in the wrong way because I was that person that I would just shut off. Even now to this day, if someone kind of annoys me, naturally I just shut off. And I just go in myself and I think, but then do I really know myself? How, if I want to start becoming a person who can deal with conflict, for example, and then I can then communicate, right, you've done this, without it being an argument, without temperatures flaring.
Yeah.
Do you actually know yourself? Because if you're so reserved and you shut yourself off to everything, that's all you're ever gonna do.
Yeah, yeah. So now the transition, you finish with football and stuff. You're now in a different season of your life. How is it going?
This is the best version of Jerome that anybody on this planet would ever have known. Because all people have ever known me for was footballer.
Yeah.
Footballer that might go out on a night out and party.
Yeah.
No one now you see and I'm still seeing it. This new version of Jerome, who is, I'd class myself as a businessman now, because that's where I'm going. I've gone from football, which didn't get me as far as I wanted it to now I'm in the insurance business, and it's opening up doors that I never thought would be opened this early in my life. I'm 26. I'm setting goals and I'm achieving things that I didn't plan on achieving until in my 30s, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
This is actually one point in my life where I'd say I'm happy, everything's good.
Yeah. So what's the education been like?
Good. In terms of what I do now, or just
in terms
in my
of
life?
what you're doing now.
I mean, you're always learning.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm an insurance specialist. I'm an insurance advisor. Now, the word specialist, you'd probably think I was a genius in it.
Yeah.
No, I'm still learning.
Yeah, you're still learning.
But that's part of the job.
Yeah.
You do what you need to do. You learn, you pass your exams, you pass your tests, you do all your qualifications. But there's going to be scenarios where it's going to make you think, oh, I'm not sure. And you have to learn, you have to adapt. You know, life is all about adapting. Things get difficult. You find a way. You either find a way or you don't find a way. Someone else will. You don't want to be in that person, do you? That's
true. Because one thing I'm learning, especially pertaining to you, Don, is the fact that you seem to be a voracious consumer of the literary text.
You've got a way with words yourself. If we're doing the mutual flattery here.
No, because let me tell you, every question I usually ask Don, there is always a reference, either be it a book or an article in the paper or in the news. Because as a retired guy, now, is it a conscious thing that you do, or is this something, one of those things?
I don't think it's a conscious thing I do, but I think what I try to do is just me, which is I like reference points because I think life is complex.
Yeah.
I think it's you need to be, or I feel I need to be sort of like challenging myself in terms of always asking the questions to myself. I want to, ask. I'm not very comfortable with people who have got certainty. Absolute. This is like because actually I've not seen that in life. You know, the 64 years I've been here, I've seen things be much more complicated, much more complex. So I quite like to read around to make some more sense of what's around me. That's what I try to do. And it's like if you've got a good friend over the years, you're always finding out more about that person. You know, and that's what's exciting about relationships. You find out more and more and more, and it makes you feel as if, I'm learning more and more. So I'm open to learning. That's one thing. That's probably the bottom line to it. I like learning, and I like learning about people. I like learning about ideas. And one of the things I found with the podcast and talking about mental health is with SACMA over the years is that it's helped me to have a better understanding of even my own, say, mental health difficulties. Because actually, what we're doing is we're talking more and more about it. There's a conversation more and more about it.
Yeah.
And the more people who can be in that conversation, the better.
Yeah, definitely. I said this the other day, and I 100% agree with you. The minute you stop learning is the minute you stop growing. And then you become very ignorant.
That's it.
And like yourself, I love learning. I love, even if it's something I'll never use it, I know it though. And then what that does, and probably like yourself, it opens up conversations that you can now have with other people because you've learned that. And if you haven't learned it, you're learning whilst you're talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the best thing. I love learning. People,
you said there about talking with older people, because that's a great way of learning, isn't it? Because just getting a sense of someone's perspective of, if they were 80, that's why children having grandparents is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because basically, grandparent gives you a perspective of life of 60 years ago.
That's it. I mean, I was raised by my grandparents anyways. I mean, I always harp on about that.
Yes.
I don't think I learned anything from them. But I won't lie.
You were just hard to learn.
No.
They were always saying, that grandson of ours, he can't learn anything.
From those. I didn't learn a thing from those two old people. But no, but one thing I learned was, responsibility. Because, when I was raised in a place where we had to go and head cattle, take the cattle out to the bushes and stuff and bring them back. And if you didn't bring them back, you didn't come home. You had to take responsibility for the things that you were doing. And you had to make it your thing that the things that were in your charge were safe. And that's one thing I learned from that kind of environment. As harsh as it was. And I think, it was probably, as you have alluded to this, I mean, there are things that we notice about our environment. Like you talk about your mom working hard, but still learning, to be more affectionate. But is she different though with your children?
Oh, 100%.
That's what I mean.
100%. I look and think, where was this hug when I was a kid? where was all this?
She's got space now, hasn't she?
Honestly,
she's got space.
Yeah, like
what I mean?
When I was a kid, it was if I didn't do my job, I'd get beaten. And I look at all affectionate. Like you said there, taking responsibility is massive.
Yeah.
It is.
And I spoke to my partner the other day, and I said, actually speaking, my sister was like my mom.
Yeah.
She sort of raised me in that sense of giving me love, but because it was my sister, my mom was working, I had my brother, we had our jobs to do in the house, just like you did growing up.
Yeah.
And if those jobs didn't get done, there was consequences.
There's
So
consequences.
obviously from a young age, you have that responsibility of, for example, now I'm a super tidy person. But as a kid, I had to be tidy because the house
because you know what, mum coming home and he's untidy. That's not happening.
Exactly.
So my question now that you are a father and stuff, and how are you raising your children? Are you raising them? How do you identify as British or West Indian or both?
Good question. I always go off how would the outside world see me? Now, I could walk on the street, I'd be viewed as a West Indian. I'm viewed as black. They'd say, where you from? Family Jamaicans, right? So you're Jamaican. That's just the way I've always seen it.
Yeah.
Now, I was born here. Where's my heritage though? Where's my family from? Where does my people come from? It's not here. That's just something I stand by. In terms of parenting, I'm strict.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that should ever go. Because I think it builds a foundation on how these kids will then go into the adult world when they're older. But I'm a very fun parent as well.
Yeah.
But I give them a lot of responsibility, and I know they're going to make mistakes, but I will allow them to make those mistakes, and then you will learn from it. I'm not going to do everything for you, because in the world, no one's going to do everything for you.
That's true.
And I don't want to raise you like that to think, well, if I leave my pots out, someone else can tide it. No.
Hey,
No, I'm not.
do it.
Yeah, I know that one.
I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that. So, my children are big now, but I know when my son came back from university, we used to fight on that one.
It's just not a thing. It's not a thing I'll ever fall back on.
Yeah.
Your mess is your mess. I don't care if you're 4 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I can teach you, put your things back.
That's it.
And if you're older, 7 years old, my youngest is 7. She can do pretty much everything on her own. You know, I can make her food. Why can't she put the pots away? You know.
No, that's true. That's very true.
And that's how I want to raise them to, you know, be independent. You can do things on your own.
That's true.
If there is a challenge, face it. Figure it out. I used to say to my daughter, use your R and your I, which was your resources and your initiative. So when she was a bit smaller and she wanted to put the light on, I'd watch her struggle.
Yeah.
And I said, figure it out. Until she finally did get a cushion or get a...
I thought you were going to say it's electrocuted herself.
That is how I raised it. It was figure it out.
In our case, you figure it out.
But
I would say to her,
we were
just figure
talking
it out.
about this last week with Delaware about confidence.
Yeah.
How do you build confidence in a child? Or in children, or in ourselves, basically. And responsibility is a part of it.
It is definitely.
Encouragement. Positivity.
Yeah, positive affirmation.
Yeah.
Affirmation. Because if you don't put young people in settings where they have to grow, how are they going to get confidence? I mean, going back to yourself there, you in the last year and a half, clearly since you've finished football, you've had to grow.
Yeah.
You know, you either were going to grow or you were not going to go forward.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
not going to happen, is it?
I think self-fulfillment is a massive one. Now, this is a part of my footballing career that I always look back on. It's quite sad, actually. Not that it would make me cry, but I look at it and think, so when I was living in London or when I'd have a game, I didn't have that sort of support from family the way I would like to or the way everyone else had it. I'd finish a game, I'd go into the clubhouse, everyone had friends there, parents, partners. I didn't have that. So for me, it was just on my own.
Yeah. How did that make you feel then?
At the time, I didn't think about it until I left football. And I was like, why did I, my brother said the same thing. You know, sometimes you play a game, you look in the stands, everyone else's family's there, yours isn't. And it does hit a bit.
Yeah.
But I think with kids especially, the one thing I never wanted to do was have the girls think they had to get gratification from elsewhere. So what I do now is, and I can't remember who said this, I was watching it one time. If she says to me, "Oh, Daddy, do you like my picture?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love it. What do you think?" So now she has to think, do I like it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I don't want her to think she has to go show everyone else.
Yeah, she just need to live her life by approval.
Yeah, I don't want you to get approval from me all the time. And look, I'm a dad, and it's going to make it happy for me to say, "Oh yeah, it's wicked, it's amazing."
Yes.
But what I'll also do is say, "How could you make it better? Do you think you could make it better? What do you think about it?" Yeah, it's really good actually. I've done this and that, and now they're thinking about what they've done.
Yes,
Yeah.
No,
it's a different way. It's a different way for them to think.
Yeah.
We're definitely. I mean, for me personally, I learn so much from the conversation that I have with other brothers and sisters in this space. And so, what's your thing?
In terms of
just what is that thing that actually you can't do without, and it makes your life better? Because I mean, for Don it's a lot, man. Now it's gym
and walking. I mean, my walking group was on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a plug, but it's the first Saturday of the month.
Yeah.
We've been doing it 20 years, but in the had an amazing sort of like bump into sort of moment. We were walking down from Mamtor on Saturday, and we looked across and we saw this party of people. You couldn't see them too clear at first, and then when we got close to them, it was 180 young black people from London. 3 coaches had come up from London, and they were walking up to Mamtor.
That's amazing.
It was incredible, absolutely incredible, and they were so full of joy, so full of excitement.
It's funny you say that, because when I was living in London, I'm from Sheffield. Where?
Yeah.
Where's that?
Where's
You know, them London people stay, but
Where's that?
so they were surprised to see us as older people walking, and we were absolutely sort of like, wow, to see such a crowd, and they were so excited about it. So that's my thing.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
I love a challenge.
I like
It
it.
could be the most outrageous, dumbest challenge ever. If it's a challenge for me and I have to learn new things about myself, I have to struggle a bit, I love it. Sometimes, you know, my partner said I've pushed myself too hard, but that's the fun for me. I absolutely, I crave it. If something's difficult, if I've said to myself, I'm going to do this, it's already made, I'm saying, you can't change my mind.
No, that's awesome.
Everything I do is, sometimes, you know, it's even the silliest things. Everything's a challenge. Whether I tell you it's a challenge or not, me and you are competing.
Oh, yeah.
That's it drives me. It puts a fire in my belly.
He's still a footballer, isn't he?
I know.
Yes, I've still got that.
You still got
Yeah, footballer mindset, bro.
You won't realise it if you're on the treadmill next to me. And we're not even doing the same
I
sessions.
seen you.
I'm telling you now,
I'm
competing with you in some way.
Well, if you've been doing it since the age of 5, clearly it's got you quite a long way. Or you, in a sense, you're transferring that quality which you've developed into another setting, aren't you? The same energy, the same drive, the same sort of let's go for it.
The same work ethic. That's something I really stand by, work ethic.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't do no 50% because you're wasting your own time.
Absolutely.
And you're probably wasting someone else's that would give it 100%.
That is true, man.
It's just transferring that work ethic, but probably managing it a bit more as well.
Yeah.
And understanding maybe I do need a bit of a rest.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Oh, so I mean, to basically wind down, so sport is a major part of your life, in essence. I mean, I would say sport in terms of your whole fitness. Yeah, fitness is a major part of your life. How does that translate in the way you do life?
This is why I like going to the gym early.
Yeah.
Because if you can, you can put that stress on your body and on your mind, you can really push yourself, it sets you up for a great day. I got to a point when I was probably 22 and I was like, why am I still in bed at 7 o'clock? And 7 o'clock's probably early to some people. And I sort of just, every day I just go half an hour earlier. And then I just thought, you know what? I'm going to push myself as hard as I can in the morning, do what I need to do, improve my body, improve my mind, and then the rest of the day set up for that, because now I'm on this momentum. And I feel like now, when it comes to work, when I'm calling clients, it's with an intensity of doing more.
Yeah.
If you have a spare hour, what are you gonna do with it?
That's
Are you gonna sit around, scroll on TikTok, or are you gonna go out and learn something? You're gonna make a bit of money.
So you're nearly that 5 o'clock person, aren't you?
5 o'clock. I was 4:30 at one
4:30?
point. At one point, I was when I was at my old gym. 5 o'clock. Yeah, 5 o'clock, and I'm usually working by 8 o'clock. I'll finish work 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. It's normally long days, but it's for a better cause in the future.
You definitely got drive and energy.
Real drive and
That's
energy, man.
one thing. I don't always have energy.
Well, no, you're not going to, but the drive to want to be better, to do better, to achieve better, to as you said, you've set yourself some goals, because if you don't have goals, you've got nowhere to go, have you?
Absolutely. I said it in the group chat with some of the other insurance advisors today. I said one thing I'm really grateful for is the potential that I have and that we all have. Now, I always like to think I push myself to reach that potential, but if you don't, at some point you have to say to yourself, you could have done more. What could your life have been like if you did, the day when you didn't want to do it? Which is why I always come back to, regardless of how you feel, do the things you need to do. Because they're the days where you're going to obviously go to, maybe a darker place, but you're gonna learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
That's true.
Then you're actually ahead of schedule. You're ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Actually, just to deviate from the old tradition of asking, besides we asked about what is your thing, as it is Black History Month. What's Black History Month for you?
Oof.
And is it necessary, or is
Well, I
one of
always
those
have
things?
not a problematic bit to it there. I mean, it's the age-old thing there. Black History Month is every day.
Mhm.
Every day of the year is Black History. And there is, you asked me earlier about finding out about things and learning things. For me, I'm always wanting to find out more about Black history, people or African people. I want to know more. So for me, it's just a window of a bigger thing,
Yeah,
which should be your life.
it should be alive. That's true. Because that's one thing I'm learning is that for me, I mean, I don't think our history can ever be castigated to 1 month.
No.
Because our contribution to the wider world has so much impact that you can't really.
Yeah.
But then when people ask, why Black History Month, I always say it's not for us. It's for those who are still trying to figure us out and get to know us. So we give them a month to educate them about our achievements and where we are going. Not necessarily where we are going, but we are reclaiming our place
Yeah.
in this part of the world where we are. And if it takes
Well, I
a
think
month,
that phrase, the title we've got this year about changing the narrative is a really good one.
It's a good one, yeah.
Narratives are important because that's the story, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
that's
if
it.
the story
That's
which is always being told to you is one thing, then actually you need to be able to have, and we need to be able to have a sense of ownership of the story. This is
That's
our
it.
story, which we're telling.
You can't change the story, can you?
Yeah,
The
you
story's
can't.
done. It's in the past. I feel like what you said, Black history is every day. And I think growing up when I was a kid, Black History Month, all you really saw and heard about was slavery.
This is
Slavery. And I got to 23. And I remember there was a footballer, Andre Gray. He had a back tattoo done of icons, legends, Bob Marley, all these different people on his back. And I said, I love that.
Yeah.
And I got something like it on my arm. You've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it,
I'll show
man.
you. But I didn't want Black History Month just to be about slavery.
No,
because
no.
it's not. Black people have done some great things that people won't know. So what I wanted to do was, right, Black history, for me, what was it? So, Black people, we descended from Africa.
Yeah.
My family from Jamaica. I had it put on my arm. But then, like you said, I didn't want it just to be about slavery. So what I did was, I wanted a tattoo that, would symbolise the great things that Black people have done as well. So I'll show you now. We've got people that have achieved unbelievable stuff.
Toussaint Louverture.
Yeah. We've got Michael Jordan, Bob Marley, Lewis Hamilton, Serena Williams, Barack Obama. We've got all these different people that have achieved some great things in the past and present. We've got Carla on there, British rapper. One of the smartest people I ever listened to. He's unbelievable.
That's it. He's amazing.
But we've also got people on there who, unfortunately had their lives taken because of the colour of the skin. And I feel like their names should be remembered in a way of not they were just killed, but we had George Floyd who unfortunately his death sparked a whole thing of where do we sit in this sort of economic system, which for me was actually it was great because now people start to think about it. And it's not just about Black History Month being about slavery, it's about what have we achieved, how have we helped.
And some of that, and I think what I've been really impressed by yourself there is that economics as well.
Economics.
Money is power.
It is. Whether we like it or not.
The world will stop spinning around it.
Absolutely. And those societies which we know the trade sort of like relationships, etc. But people need to succeed.
Yeah.
And if they, I know there's lots of barriers to it, but to be talking to a young man like yourself there, who's clearly set out for himself. Look, I want to do as well as I can.
Yes.
And I'm going to go for it there. And I know when I was your age, I didn't think, most of the people I knew didn't think they could go out and be self-employed, could make it for themselves. We didn't think we could, be an entrepreneur and make money and whatever it might be, and employ people. And we need to have David Campbell on because he wants to come, because he, when I've spoken to him about this, he said he didn't want to work for anybody.
Yeah.
He wanted to work for himself.
That's it.
A simple
That's
thing
it.
as that there.
That's
I want to work for myself, and I don't want to work for somebody else. I don't want to work for some white boss who's going to be telling me X, Y, and Z there. So if that's the case, someone used to joke, say, when we were young, but tell me which black man factory I got to work for. And in the end, you have to then have that factory.
That's it.
You have to have that factory.
It's part of the reason why I stopped playing football.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I had someone else trying to tell me what my value was.
Yeah.
And I got to a point I was fed up with it. You telling me what time I have to be here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah. Which is what paid employment is.
Yeah.
No, that's
Which
it.
therefore, if I don't want that, I've got to do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That is so true.
Being self-employed, I work for myself when I want, and the work I put in, I get out.
Yeah.
But there's also the concept of how many young black men do you see working in the insurance business?
Well, again, over the years, not that many.
Not many.
I mean,
No.
and there's so many walks of life
absolutely.
where you think to yourself, guy we saw last week who was at Mark's screening there, Andrew Swaby.
Yes,
And Andrew's a criminal lawyer.
That's it.
And I said to him back in November, I said, well, how many black male criminal lawyers are there in the city? And he looked at me and said, me one.
Yes.
Now it's been him one for 30 odd years.
Yeah.
So there's still lots and lots of areas.
What
like
that does is it opens doors for, if I wanted to do it, it opens doors. I've seen him do it.
Yes.
I thought there would have been more followed already. So clearly there still is a need
But then
for people like yourself, young men like yourself there, to go out there and to do well, and people can look at you and
say, look at him.
Look at him.
But you know what's great about, obviously, the organisation I'm in now? We've got a company called True Life. You've got majority of the people in there are young. We've got, in my group that I speak to, 5 young black men doing really well. We've got young women. Insurance advisors, you would never think it. Normally, when you think of insurance advisors, you maybe think of an older man.
Yes.
Of an old guy, of an old white guy.
Yeah.
With a little black book.
That's how it was.
He's just come in and put in his figures.
It's changed the dynamic of what you think.
Yeah.
And obviously what you think is achievable.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
also, I think it's speaking to our needs as a community, because you know the stories of the older guy, dying and they finding like wages of money under his mattress. Gone are those days when we could do that. So our insurance needs are now kind of different, because
all of those financial services, aren't they? Because capital's needed to make money, basically.
Everyone needs it. It's not. I mean, some things are wants.
Yeah.
Some things are wants. Some things aren't. But I think insurance is one of those things. In fact, I don't think I know. From working in it, it's a need.
It is a need.
If you have kids, what are you leaving to them?
My point exactly.
Well, what about the inheritance tax on it?
Yeah. But that's the thing, going back, what we're saying about financial education is one of those things that is imperative, even though there is no place I can go to and say, I'm going to enroll on a class that will teach me how to manage my money.
Bear in mind, I didn't know about this till even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I had no idea about insurance advising. Didn't have a clue. And when I had the opportunity, I just went, okay, because I knew where it could take me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you, Jerome.
I think, I think he's probably going to be one of those we periodically, if we survive beyond next year.
You keep going to the gym, you'll be there.
Yeah. Well,
thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. Until next time, keep those conversations going and the clippers buzzing.